The 198 of the war between Russia and Ukraine continues. Let's look at the main events over the past day. Let's start with the situation on the front south of Kharkiv, where Ukrainian armed forces have been advancing since the beginning of the week. According to the official information of the General Staff of Ukraine, it is said that the Ukrainian army advanced 50 kilometers in 3 days of fighting. Commander-in-Chief Valery Zaluzny said that the military had liberated more than 1,000 square kilometers of territory. There are many videos from the Russian Ministry of Defense with military equipment being transferred to the Kharkov direction. The information that comes in parallel from messages from Ukrainian sources, as well as from Russian military telegram channels, allows us to add up the following picture. On the northern flank, the advancing Ukrainian military took complete control of the settlement of Shevchenkov. From there, Ukrainian forces launched an offensive against the city of Kupiansk. Just yesterday, telegram channels wrote about the blowing up of the bridge across the Oskol River and its severe damage, which divides the city of Kupiansk into western and eastern parts. At the same time, some said that it was defeated by the blows of the Ukrainian army, while others said that the Russians themselves blew it up. Already this morning, evidence appeared in the form of photographs that the Ukrainian military occupied the western part of Kupiansk. From the Ukrainian side, a photograph of soldiers near the city council building was published. Thus, at the moment, the entire western part of the city of Kupiansk is under the Ukrainian military, and Russian troops are holding the defense in the eastern part. One of the key areas now is the western bank of the Oskol River between Kupiansk and Izium. According to reports on both Ukrainian and Russian telegram channels, the Ukrainian armed forces have occupied part of this coast from Kupiansk in the north to Bakhtin in the south, including the important village of Sinkovo, where there is a bridge over the Oskol River, one of the roads from Kupiansk to Izium. Thus, all roads north to the city of Izium are cut by Ukraine. More precisely, there is another one along the eastern shore of the reservoir, but it is in the zone of shelling of the Ukrainian army from the western shore. But at the moment, roads from the east remain under Russian control, which go to the city of Izium south of the Oskol Reservoir. Although, there were reports on social networks that Ukrainian troops entered Oskol and Kapitalovka, these are settlements just on one of the roads from the east of Izium and directly adjacent to it. There is no evidence for this, but if this is true, then only one road remains under Russian control to the city through Studnak and Kamenka, which lies not far from the front line. Fighting is going on in the territories near the Oskol coast, where the Ukrainian military managed to penetrate. The area is being processed by Russian artillery and aviation. Separate Russian telegram channels write that Russian counterattacks are underway in the areas of the villages of Sinikovo, Vorontsovka, Fedorovka, Lesnaya, Stenka. They also write about the offensive of the armed forces of Ukraine on Gorokhovka, where the closest bridge to Izium across Oskol is located. At the same time, the population of Izium is also being evaluated, Russian-appointed authorities said. Russia, judging by the statements of military correspondents and numerous videos, began to transfer reserves to the Kharkov region. They are delivered by land and by air. However, it is still unclear where exactly they are introduced and in what quantity. The third direction is the city of Balaklia itself. The city center has been taken by Ukrainian troops, but there is no exact understanding of what is happening to the east of the city along the highway to Savancy. The military of Ukraine did not announce the release of Savancy and did not publish any photographs. In the morning, the General Staff of Ukraine reported that an attempt was underway to evaluate the wounded of the enemy from Borodoyarsky and Alkovaka. That is, the route from Balaklia to the east, towards Savancy and the junction in Veselo, was not completely controlled by the Ukrainian army. It is possible that even now this is still the case, since there was no information about the withdrawal of Ukrainian forces to Vesely during the day. In the Kherson region, too, the front did not freeze. Last night there were reports of an offensive by Ukraine in the Pozad-Pokrovsky area near Nikolaev towards Kherson. This information has not received official confirmation. To the northwest of Davidov-Brod, the Russians, according to the General Staff of Ukraine, have closed the village of Velika Alexandrovka for entry and exit, that is, they are waiting for an attack by Ukraine. A video was posted on social networks, reportedly from Blagodativka, Kherson region. In the video, the Ukrainian military raises a flag over the village. That is, the settlement came under the control of Ukraine, although this was not officially reported. But in general, here the armed forces of Ukraine do not advance as quickly as in the Kharkiv region, which Russian military telegram channels explain by the greater density of the defense of the Russian army. Here the Russians were preparing in advance for the offensive of Ukraine and therefore transferred a lot of troops. That is, even if the Ukrainian military breaks through one line of defense, they immediately collide with the second. In Balaklia, there was only a rather weak line of defense at the forefront, and further in the rear, neither the second nor the third line was organized, as well as reserves. Therefore, having broken through the line of defense, the Ukrainian military was immediately able to quickly move to the rear for tens of kilometers, almost without encountering resistance. The fact that the main problem of the Russian army in Ukraine, the lack of people, was also stated by the advisor to the office of the President Arestovich. Stalin created for Ukrainian fronts with a total of 2.5 million to conquer it. And not because he was a fool, on the contrary, because they knew how to count well. And the Russians with 170,000 are trying to conquer Ukraine. They are smeared with a thin line along the entire line front, and if the Ukrainian troops pierce this line, then there is no one to hold the defense further, says Arestovich. However, as we see, in the Kherson region, the Russians were still able to collect a lot of reserves for defense. And now, apparently, they are trying to organize the same line of defense in the Kharkiv region. But it will be more difficult for them there, since the task will have to be solved in the conditions of the offensive of the armed forces of Ukraine. While I was making this video, information began to come in from both Ukrainian and Russian telegram channels that the Russians began to withdraw their troops from the city of Izium. But it should be borne in mind that so far there is no concrete evidence for this. That's all for now. I'm waiting for your opinion in the comments. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks.